Hi, and welcome to tonight's Action Coaching Club live training call. It's Lou Dallow. Welcome welcome to the call. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to have you here with me. Also tonight, I'm especially happy and glad and proud to have a friend of mine and a very experienced lead traffic and list builder, John Rhodes, who is going to talk to us about his juggernaut SEO secrets. Now, that's the name that I gave to it, based on the fact that John's products are all labeled Juggernaut. But today we're going to really focus on SEO as a way of generating traffic, and what we're hoping to get is an understanding of what's important for us to do, how to do it, and then hopefully how to do it in a way that doesn't take a lot of our time, money, and energy. So that's kind of the challenge I issued to John this afternoon, and I'm sure he'll come up big. So let me just introduce you to John. John's an online success story, and the success of his online business wound up killing his day job as a six-figure software engineering manager in a Fortune 500 company. So, by the way, this is a great strategy we recommend to all you guys. Hold on to your day job until your online business is killing it, and then you can make a shift. Now, he's consulted behind the scenes of some multi-million-dollar product launches. So, as I mentioned, I first met John at one of Evan's events down in Miami. It was a private event for about 100 or so top internet marketers, and then we met in Jeff Walker's Product Launch Mastermind. And the word that I got from everybody was, you got to meet John. Not only is he really good at what he does, but he's a great guy. He's got a big heart, and those are magic words for me. And as I got to know John, I realized that that was absolutely true. So not only is he very skilled and got a lot of experience with product creation and running launch blogs and consulting with some of these highly respected internet marketers, but he has a real great intention to help you succeed as well, which is always important in the people that I like to work with. John's the creator of what he calls Juggernaut series of information products, and these products have to do with SEO and article marketing and other traffic and list generation strategies. And we'll talk to you a little bit about some of the products that John has. And introduce some of them to you, so that if you'd like to work a little bit with John or get to know more about him, that you certainly can. And we'll probably have a link in the members area to his stuff as well. Okay, so with that, I'll say welcome to the call, John. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Lou, thank you very, very much. And I'm really looking forward to presenting. I love training. I love teaching. I love delivering massive, massive value. The over-delivery isn't enough. It's got to be more than over delivery. So Lou, really, I appreciate the opportunity to come on and basically be involved in the training and basically having contact with some really, really sharp, highly motivated, successful people. So I'm really glad to be here. So thank you for inviting me, and thanks to everyone for being here. And I got to tell you, I'm super high energy. I throw a lot of content out there. I talk pretty fast. I will slow down. I will answer questions, but this is stuff you probably haven't seen before or heard about, and it's so contrarian, so against what you would think of and what comes to mind when you think of SEO. I think typically people think of SEO as being sort of a mad scientist kind of thing, where you're looking at algorithms and technology, and I think you'll be really surprised at what I do. It's actually pretty laughable and humorous, but it's just so effective.
Yeah, I think that's the part that I remember when you told me that it's so contrary. And I'm always up for hearing something new and unique. So I'm anxious to see it, John. I'm going to hand over the controls to you here. I'm going to make you the presenter, and I will let you lead the call, and I'll chime in as I get inspired to do so throughout, if you don't mind, and then we'll do some Q&A at the end.
Awesome. And if folks can just let me know here when they see the screen. It's actually a mind map we're going to go through. Thought about putting it into a PowerPoint and going through it that way, but I think it's more effective for us to kind of work through this together through a mind map. And I've got some warm-up questions for you. And well, let me say this first. So notice that this is Quick Start SEO. Now, there's lots of ways to get started with SEO, but this is one of the best ways that I have found, because it's so easy to understand, so basic, and it's also kind of funny because it'll be common sense, yet it's contrarian. It just goes against all the the evil geniuses and mad scientists trying to figure out what Google's doing. It's like the exact opposite. You actually don't have to worry at all about what Google is actually, it's kind of interesting. You don't even have to really worry about what Google is doing and still do SEO, search engine optimization, really, really effectively. Okay? So, let's do this. Some warm-up questions here. Are you interested in learning how to create content that forces people to link to you? All right, so that's a pretty big deal right there. To put that another way, a lot of people think about buying backlinks or spending an enormous amount of time getting backlinks from people, and it's just one of those things that I kind of scratch my head about. Like, why are you trying so hard? Why are you spending money to get backlinks? I mean, are you interested? That's really like a real question I have for you. I want you to think through and give me an answer to that. Like, are you interested in learning how to create content that forces people to link to you? Right? And I think the obvious answer, sort of rhetorical, is, well, yeah, sure. And then the next question is are you interested in getting super high-quality backlinks from trusted websites and authority sites and even your toughest competitors? So I'll say this. You've got on-page SEO and you've got off-page SEO. All right? So when it comes to on-page SEO, typical factors are things like, the domain name, right? That's a typical one. Like, hey, what's my domain be? And should it be a .com, .net, .org? What do I actually have to worry about regarding the domain name? That's one. Or the title tag, or the description. These things are important, okay? But there's so much more to the story. That's on page. There's tons of stuff there. There's off-page SEO, which is very much related. It's like 95%. The links that are coming in to your website. All right? So I want to disambiguate for you. I want to clear the clutter, clear the fog. Typically, people talk about on-page SEO, and they get all crazy about HTML, and they get crazy about the technology and so on. I do worry about that because there are basics we have to adhere to. But you can get those basics pretty much anywhere. You can go to Google, in fact, and get the basics directly from Google without ever going to any guru or reading any research reports or doing anything crazy. I mean, Google's going to tell you what you ought to be doing on your site. Okay, so let's focus a little bit more instead on getting those backlinks because that's something that's a little bit tricky. You need some ninja tricks in order to get people to link to you. So we're going to spend a lot of time on getting those backlinks, which is really, really hot. Another warm-up question for you here is, are you interested in outsourcing a ton of the heavy lifting and really the boring work that is required to make SEO really kick butt? Okay, I'm into outsourcing. I'm into creating systems. All right, I'm really, really sort of a systems junkie. I have a systems background, and even though I've got this technology background and stuff, the only thing that I've really extracted from that is the creation of models and systems, and then getting people to sort of follow those systems and handing that off in such a way that I can outsource very, very effectively. Okay, so I see a little note here. So I want to close this up. Yeah. I want to close this up and to give myself a little bit more room. I'm looking for the ribbon.
I think if you just, or you can just double click the home key. I think that'll do it.
Oh, yeah, not working there.
No, the home, just the home key on the nav bar in the main menu. Double click that. Yeah.
Very good. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Lou. Lou learned something new there. So those are some sort of warm-up questions and warm-up, ideas and concepts. And like I said, most people kind of get all caught up in the technology. They get caught up in the latest Google update. Well, I'm going to give you a few tips right here, some things that are very actionable. By basically the time that we're done together here, you're going to have certain tools in your tool belt that will pretty much give you immunity from Google updates. In fact, you'll have what I call evergreen SEO, at least in some respects, okay? And you'll never have to really depend on any particular technology and never really follow Google. Like, what is Google saying today? What is Google trying to get me to do? Right? Most people, when Google sneezes, everyone pays very, very close attention. And there's so much time and attention focused on what Google is doing that people actually forget what the whole point is. They even forget, by the way, they forget what Google's mission is to make, the world's information basically publicly and universally accessible. That's a paraphrase. It's not quite right, but it's really, really close. Google's trying to connect people who want information or trying to get information, trying to get answers, trying to get entertainment with the people that are supplying it. they're basically middlemen. And by the way, to make their money, Google is actually an advertising company. Okay, so that's a nice little backdrop there. Most people forget that Google is not a search engine company. They forget that. You probably have never really thought of Google as an advertising company. Now, if you have, that's cool. Now, you might have spent money to, on AdWords or other Google advertising. They've got some other ways to advertise as well. So if you've done pay-per-click and you've done it with Google, then maybe you've thought more about Google as a company as being something more than a search engine company, right? So if you're inside Google, you talk to the insiders, they're not really talking an awful lot about the algorithms, except for the engineers and the folks that are close to the servers and kind of tweaking and tuning to turn results faster. Google is an advertising company. Okay, so you got to sort of take that perspective on what they're doing and the results that they're trying to provide to people and how they're trying to connect. Right? They're in the middle. They are trying to do their very best job to connect people who want stuff with people who have stuff. And that's one reason why these evergreen techniques I'm going to show you in just a moment work so well, right? And in fact, and I've had many students tell me this and say, John, I didn't think you were right at first, but I've done exactly what you said, and it really is true. The result of doing just a few of these things, and I've got a lot, but doing these things really forces Google to follow you. And I know that sounds impossible and it sounds, like a fairy tale, but Google will actually follow what you're doing versus you trying to figure out what you ought to do for Google. Wild difference. You're basically reversing this strange flow of energy and karma, like, oh, I have to follow Google. Exactly the opposite will happen by doing just a few things here. So if you're excited, great. You ought to be excited because this is really, really awesome stuff. Okay, so the first thing is link bait. Now, I can't see questions and answers here and so on right now, and I'm kind of focused on the presentation. But I have a question for you. Do you know what link bait is? Okay, it sounds kind of naughty and all that stuff, but what is it? Do you know what it is? And if you do know what it is, kind of keep that in mind as we work through this link bait thing and leveraging link bait. So what is link bait? This is very important. I have these things in order, and you'll see how this all comes together as we move along. Link bait, and this is not a perfect definition. Other people are going to define link bait differently than me, and that's perfectly fine. But the way that I define it is you've got content, you've got assets, and in particular you've got content, okay, that's so compelling that you have to tell other people about it. You really can't help but share. And the reason I do it this way is I want you to put yourself in that driver's seat, in that role, thinking about the kind of content that you tell other people about. There's lots of different content that you tell other people about. You do it all the time. If you write an email to someone and there's a link in it, that's link bait, right? If you're on Facebook and you link to, let's say, Lou's blog, that's link bait. Okay, the content that Lou has created on his blog that you're linking to is link bait. Okay? Very, very, very powerful. Very powerful concept because what you're doing and what you're focusing on is wildly popular stuff. You're focused on true value that you can deliver to other people. Now remember, there's this equation, and Google's in the middle, or really search engine, but Google's in the middle. People want stuff. What kind of stuff do they want? Do they want low-quality garbage, or do they want high-quality, awesome stuff? Right? They want the awesome sauce. They want awesome sauce. You want awesome sauce. When I say they, it's you. Just like me. You're like me. We're human. We want cool stuff. And when you can't help but share, guess what? That means you're onto something. That means that you have awareness of the kind of content that people are actually sharing. And some of it's crazy and wild and weird and fun, but that's human. Now you see, there's a trick right there. It's not only a trick, not like a sleight of hand kind of trick, but it's a sort of a mind shift. And it's an important mind shift where the focus of your content and of your assets is actually on people. Isn't that refreshing? That search engine optimization has nothing to do with technology and actually trying to optimize anything, but instead trying to deliver great value to other people. Very, very important concept, okay? And we're going to leverage that as we move forward, okay? This is link bait leverage, very cool. Link bait for authority. Who doesn't want to be an expert in their niche. Everyone does. Everyone wants to be a market leader. Everyone wants to be the guru on the mountain. Everyone wants power and control. So how do you use link bait for authority? Very important here, okay? Concepts that you must understand first, though. You want content that's going to last for a long time. You want content that if you came back to a year or two from now, you'd be like, I'm proud of that. That's the kind of content that matters to me. This is the kind of content I'd be proud to tell my grandmother about, right? Or I get the gold star. I gave it to my teacher, right? It's going to last for a long time. Now, that's not to say that news and sort of frequently updated news and comedy and things like that aren't of value. They are. But when it comes to authority, when it comes to true authority, it's better to think about content that's going to last for a long time, right? I kind of, liken this to thinking about, monuments, the pyramids. Are you creating, a pyramid? Are you creating something that if someone came back to a long time from now, they go, wow, that's really good stuff, right? So now, what does that mean if we were to break that out? I like to tell people, look, think about the content you're creating in relation to domain. So I've got a simple rhetorical question. What do you think gets more respect? An old domain that's been around 7 or 8 years, or a new domain that's fresh and bright and shiny and new that's been around for 3 days? Age domains are trusted. It's one of the highest and most important factors in the Google algorithm. Okay, I know that for a variety of reasons, doesn't matter why. I think intuitively you understand that web pages and web sites that have been around for a while tend to be more trusted. If you think about it, it makes sense, right? If someone just built a website and it was fly-by-night and the content wasn't very good, what's going to happen to the site? It's going to evaporate. That site, that content's going to go away. That's where broken links come from, right? So domains that have been around for a while, content that has been around for a while is, basically gets more respect, more power. Content that's good and useful from years from now is what's really cool. So here's something right here, right? So here's an example. I can go to my blog, johnsrhodes.com, how to get traffic to your website. Now, this is a topic that's going to be good for me, okay? It's going to be good for me for a very long time, all right? That's the kind of content that I put out there. It's not the world's greatest content, but it's very high-quality content, okay? Now, if I want, and I'm not going to do this right now, for the sake of time here, to keep things really tight, but I can take this URL and then check to see who's linking to me. And this is just one of the tools. There are bazillions of tools out there that you can utilize. You can use Google itself to figure out and find out who exactly is linking to you. And of course, once you know who's linking to you, you can do more cool stuff. You can reach out to those people. You can create more content like that. Lots of cool stuff you can do. I just want to give that tool to you and give that example to you so you have an understanding about what I'm talking about in terms of content that's very good. Does it have to be world-class? No. Does it have to be good? Does it have to not be, junk? Absolutely. Okay, it needs to be content that you feel is relatively evergreen. And all your content does not need to be evergreen, but the more evergreen content you have, the better off you're going to be from a link bait perspective and in particular from an authority perspective. Okay, now we talked about this idea of being a trusted expert or guru and what that means in terms of your content. Here's another example, right? And you can, this is kind of interesting. You can actually look at the URL and go, oh, I want you to really take a step back from this and think about this strategically. You can look at this URL, and there is actually authority, human-based, language-based authority built into the domain to a degree, because there's a name there, Wilson Matos, and then built in based on the language that's used, right? There's no, weird 00, X question mark, %. It's very clean, very straightforward for humans to read. What do you think Google thinks of highly readable, highly understandable content that's built into the URL? What do you think Google thinks about that? That's right. Again, rhetorical question, right? You should be thinking, your brain should be buzzing going, well, I'm guessing that if people like that, Google likes that. Now, you notice that the focus is on people and readability and usability, okay? And then Google comes next. Okay, great. We've got keywords here. ClickBank, product, download, right? There's protect, so security. And it's like reading a real nice sentence. I'm not saying that long URLs are better, by the way. You can have pretty short URLs that are perfectly reasonable. I like short URLs, but this particular URL, as the example, tells you exactly what it is. I mean, there's an expectation. You look at this and you go, well, if I click on, if that was an active link and I were to click on that, how would I feel about that, right? If I landed on a page and it was all about, hula girls or dancing girls, right, or blackjack, violation of expectation, bad thing. What do you think humans think of that? Garbage. What do you think Google thinks of that? Garbage. However, when there's alignment and continuity between what the URL provides to you and what you get when you land on the page, what do you think happens then? Humans happy. Humans spend more time on page, therefore making it practical. You spend more time on that page, making it real personal. You will spend more time on that page when there's an alignment of the URL, what you read about it, the expectation you have, and actually getting to the page. You know why? Because you're going to spend more time. It's in alignment. It's an agreement. There's harmony in the universe. Very zen and weird and kumbaya. Get out your guitar. But it's true. You're protecting the pages, ClickBank, product, download. It all is in alignment. You land on the page. What do you think Google thinks of people and websites that are sort of in agreement? That's right, thumbs up, better SEO. Here is how they measure that. You might be going like, okay, where's the science? Where's the math to this? How do they do that? Very simple. When someone clicks on a link and they land on a page, especially when they do it through, Google.com, okay, they can measure. They can do the measurement in a variety of ways, no reason to go into it. They can measure, important to know, they can measure how long people are on the page. Do you spend a lot of time on pages that you think suck? I mean, really, do you spend time on pages that are complete garbage? Or do you spend time on pages that have very, very good content, right? A longer video, longer text, really, charts and graphs, high-quality content, right? And they will measure how much time you're spending on that page. And what do you think that does for your rankings? So that tip right there alone gives you a radical advantage over most people, because most people think, I'm going to crank out 5, 8, 12 pages that are pretty good on the topic, and I'll do this keyword thing, I'll do some keyword research, spit these pages out. What do you think's better, 5 kind of garbage pages that hit 5 different keywords, or one really good page of high-quality content? Hopefully that's another obvious question with an obvious answer to you, right? The URL creates the expectation and actually puts you in an alpha position. You become the guru based on the URL, which is insane, but totally true. Again, we're talking about authority here. Okay, how about first mover advantage? Very simple. There's the answer. Publish it before other people. When you're first, when you're number one, does that give you authority? Yes or no? Obviously it does. When you're number one, when you're the top dog, it just gives you the authority. So Google watches that. Who's coming out with this content first? Okay? Now, I hear this a lot. John, my niche is just saturated with content. I'm in a very competitive niche, and there's so much content that's already being covered, and so on and so on and so forth, right? My niche is too competitive. There's no possible way for me to be first. I cannot publish first because my niche is saturated. And to that, I laugh. I say, really? Seriously, do you think that there's no creative way around this? There's no way to get first mover advantage and then, therefore, get authority in your marketplace. And, of course, if you have authority in your marketplace, you attract links. You attract people, and you suck them in, and they talk about you. They pass your link around. They pass your name around. You get referenced in Twitter and LinkedIn and all that good stuff, okay? So here's the deal. Here's how that works, right? Why can't you do a group of blog postings? Why can't you create why can't you aggregate some content together? We'll talk about that, and create a PDF. You could be the first person to bring together certain content and turn it into a PDF. Different format. A training series, multi-part training series, in-depth, charts, graphs, audio, video. Basically, the exact same content transmuted into a different delivery format with a real voice, a real face, or maybe it has different graphics and a different look and feel. You actually can put a face to the concept versus it just being a nameless, faceless concept. Very powerful stuff here. Okay, breaking this out. Hey, first mover advantage, misspelling there, I love it, gained by being first, right, with a new format. All right, that's really the answer. Change the format, and you basically become the first person to publish in that format. Therefore, you get first mover advantage. You can publish first, right? Maybe not the literal idea, but you could be the first person to create the video on that topic or a video series on that topic, and that first mover advantage is in the eyes of humans. And it's also something that Google pays very, very close attention to. Again, no one's talking about this. No one explains SEO this way. I'm certain of this. Okay, next, the aggregation monster. You want authority in your market? You know, do you really want authority in your market? Maybe you don't like anything I've said so far, and you're like, John, I reject everything you say. I reject everything you say. It's too hard. I don't understand. It's too complex, which I would say is false. I think I've broken it down for you. But look, if you reject everything I've said so far, here's something that you can do that is very, very obvious and very powerful. You can become what I call the aggregation monster. And this is like one of my favorite techniques in the realm of doing cool stuff with your content for the sake of SEO, for search engine optimization. Very cool. Aggregation monster. Lots of fun, right? Well, let's say it's fast. When you have more data, more links, more references, more images, more background, more parts, more stuff, guess what? Guess what? Higher numbers, bigger numbers are more impressive to people. What's more impressive? $1 million or $100 million? Which one's more impressive? Which one do you go, ooh? Which one's bigger in your mind in terms of scale, absolute or relative scale? You can't get around it. 100 million is bigger than 1 million. There's no way around that. We're basically hardwired for that. And even if we're soft-wired for that based on learning, doesn't matter. It's still wired in there. It's still baked into all of us that 100 million is bigger than 1 million. You can't get over it. So what you do is you basically ninja, judo type of tactics, and you use that to your advantage. Psychological principles at play here. Quantity is authority. Basically a tautology. Quantity is authority. Authority is quantity. They are, in my mind, when it comes to SEO and content, they're functionally equivalent. I can create lots of stuff, a big, big, big pile of whatever, images, references, links, people, books, data, whatever, right? Widgets, parts, things. Quantity is authority, right? And I have a visual for this. I love this. It's fun, right? The visual is this. Like, look, and I think that's an F16 or F18, F4. It's an F something, right? Now, I don't know how many bombs are there. Let's count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We'll pick 12 bombs coming out of that. If I said that there were 25 bombs coming out of that, 25 bombs versus the 12 we see now, which one of those planes has more authority, assuming the bombs are equal weight, size, and damage, and so forth? 25 bombs coming out of the fighter or 12 bombs? 25 bombs coming out, very, 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 very obvious. 25 bombs does more damage. More quantity is more authority. There's the visual, right? It bakes into your mind. Can't help it. By the way, it's very powerful. That's link-based material there. You can do things like this and explain that idea. That alone is like, John made this reference to 12 versus 25, and there's the picture. That's the kind of stuff people talk about. It's like, ooh, that's an interesting, simple idea. That could be a 1, 2, 3 minute video on YouTube, and people go, wow, quantity is authority. Done, right? Cool stuff. Versus me presenting it here to you as a mind map. Okay, so an okay example is how to get traffic to your website. We saw that one earlier. A very good example of the aggregation monster is this one right here, IamSimple.com, how to generate website traffic, the meta list. What do you think of that? Okay, I know you folks are smart, so you understand the meta idea, meta principle, meta ideas, meta data, meta, right? So I created a list of lists about generating traffic. It's like, 100, 200, 300 different ways of generating traffic. It's a list of lists. Have you ever seen a list before? Have you ever seen multiple lists? Why aren't you the person who brings together multiple lists? I mean, lists are cool. I love lists. That's sort of the idea of the aggregation monster, right? You just create a list and you aggregate stuff together, but why not create the meta list as well? List of lists. Quantity is authority. Can't stress that enough. Very, very powerful stuff. Link bait for authority, right? So now you understand this idea of, wow, I can get people to link to me. I can get people really deeply, heavily involved in what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And what does that do if people are that close to you and close to your content? they have to link to you eventually. They have to talk to you. They have no choice. It's just the way that it is. It's human nature. We're tapping into human psychology, human principles, right? Evergreen principles here. Now, do you see? I haven't talked about Google, really. There's no weird algorithms here. There's no HTML. There's no bracket this, bracket that. It's not here. There's no need. I don't need it. You don't need it either. Okay, link bait as an asset, important. Okay, very, very simple, right? Here's an example. I want to say, hey, look, you've got link bait, you've created link bait, rock and roll. You've got content that you've done cool stuff with. You've got a bag of, you've got a big, repository warehouse of content. Let's just take your blog as an example. You can take 8 to 10 killer blog posts that you now know how to create, right? If you haven't created blog content like this before, now you know how. I'm just going to kind of stick with the blog idea, right? Take 8 to 10 of those killer blog postings, flesh them out, and create a dead tree book. Dead tree, raise your hand, you know as, right, physical book, right? Print the book out. Take that really, really good content, the 8 to 10 killer blog posts, turn it into a book. Turn it into a book, right? You can sell the PDF, you can give away the PDF and collect. You can build your list this way. You can do the nice print-on-demand thing. I use CreateSpace. It's awesome. And I can go on and on, right? Reuse, leverage again and again and again. This is leverage right here, right? Link-based leverage. Create the assets, combine them together like Lego pieces, recombine them. You can take the exact, think about this, right? Erector set, Legos. Take the Legos, and in some cases, you've got, let's say, in Star Wars, you get the AT-ATs, right? You can have the AT-ATs, and they land on Hoth, and it's like, whoa, what's that? So you can turn it into a fire truck. You can take your Legos and turn them into a fire truck, or you can create the Death Star, right? Same pile of Legos, roughly the same pile of Legos. Yet in one case it's a fire truck, another case you've got the Death Star. Same thing here. You've already got the blog posts. Repurpose them. So you want to think about your link bait as an asset and how you can actually use that in multiple ways. Very, very important concept that we'll come back to later on. Now, how about asking for links? People are like, how do I actually get people to link to me, with the little meek mouse? How do I ask for links? How do I actually go to someone and say, will you link to me? Mole, please, right? How do you ask for links? How do you do it? Okay, look. This is very simple, very straightforward system. I'm a systems guy at heart, at least part of my heart, okay? How do you ask for links? Comment on someone else's blog, right? So you go to their blog, you go to their website or their blog, or, typically blog. I use blog as an example all throughout here. Comment on their blog a few times. Follow them and friend them, right? So we're talking about Twitter, we're talking about Facebook, LinkedIn, and their hobby sites too. Okay, I'm talking about people who have content, blogs in this case, in your niche or in your market. So go to their blog, comment on their blog a few times. Get to, sort of experience their content, interact with them through their content, okay, through the content they have right there. Follow them, friend them, have a gay old time right here, right? Social media used to your advantage, right? You're going to be stalking them a little bit in a sort of a nice way. Now, the question is why should they listen or care about you? We're going to talk more about that in just a little while. But why should someone care about you or listen to you? Most people make the mistake of saying, hey, will you, I love the mailing thing, the JV mailing thing. Hey, I've got this great new product. Will you mail for me? It's like, who are you? What? Who? Huh? Who are you? Right? So that's kind of the question here. Why should someone listen to you? Here's the scoop, right? Here's the deal. You've got a great resource. You've got great material because now you understand link bait. You've created that link bait, and you've linked to their site. So a smart thing to do is strategically link to your competitors in some cases or link to other authority sites. It's okay to link to competitors here and there, right? It's very rare that there's a true competitor. Mostly it's co-opetition. Mostly it's, I always think of competition as future partner. Competition, future partner, right? So it's okay to link to other people, link to their products, right? It's like, well, okay, I'll be an affiliate. They have an affiliate program, link to them, okay? Do cool stuff. You can reach out to them and very easily say, hey, by the way, it's very easy to say, hey, I've done this. I created a great resource, right? We talked about list and the aggregation monster. Wouldn't it be cool to put together a really great blog post where a few of your major competitors, in quotes here, your future partners, are notified that you've included them on a top 10 list, the top 10 most important yada yadas, the top 10 most important widgets, whatever it is in your marketplace, you include these movers and shakers into that list. Then you send them an email, say, hey, you're number 3, or you're number 2, or you're number 1 in that list. I just wanted to let you know. A lot of times, what do you think? A lot of times you're going to get mentioned by them on Twitter and Facebook. You're going to get mentioned, even in some cases, in newsletters they send out or on their blog. Reciprocal links really out of nowhere. Very cool stuff. And there's a lot you can do here. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But this sort of gives you the confidence to go and talk to other people. You've got the authority on your side. You've got assets that you can leverage, and you have the confidence. It's so, so important. Like, how do I land my first client? You talk to people that work in the offline world, and how do I get my very first client? Well, what do you got? What do you got in your tool belt? What do you got in your bag that you can pull out and astound people with? What are your magic tricks? Well, you've got link bait, right? So you've created some content that's highly relevant, highly cool, and provides massive value, and then you have the confidence to go out and talk to other people. So these are confidence boosters for you as well. That's in addition to having the authority in the marketplace, having the asset available. It actually gives you and generates confidence. Now, whoever thought you'd talk about confidence, I mean, think about that. It's almost laughable that you would talk about confidence when it comes to search engine optimization. Crazy. So, you guys digging this? I will slow down. I will speed up. I will cut things out. We can call it a day. Okay, Luke. Any questions that have come in? It's a good spot to sort of take a breath. I'll get a little drink here. Any questions that have come in that are like essential or critical? Otherwise, I will just plow right ahead with the blog comment authority drain.
Well, actually, right now, take your drink and take a deep breath. You're doing an awesome job, and what I just request is if we want to take a couple of minutes. Normally, we'll wait to the end of the call to ask questions, but if you've got something top of mind right now, go ahead and type it in the GoToWebinar control panel, and if they're related to what you've seen so far, that we'll ask John real quick. And the other thing is, I'm seeing a lot of really great comments. You guys are getting so good. You what I love about you is that you acknowledge all the time, and I'm getting great comments. Ben says awesome. Sebastian says this is sweet. Julie says thanks. Ben says, he doesn't like the bomb analogy. Yeah, Ben, you're such a sweet guy, Ben. You got a big heart. And Julie says, John, your content is awesome. So thanks, guys, for the feedback. Let me know how this is going. Is the pace good? Is the content good? Are you learning stuff? You want to give John a high five, or if you have a question, let's take a minute to do that now while John has a sip of water.
This is a quick comment. As you can tell, I get pretty wrapped up about this stuff, and I can literally talk for hours. I've had webinars, some training and coaching webinars that have lasted upwards of 6 and 7 hours. By the way, at this pace, at this intensity, this pace. Like,
John, that's very deceiving, because when I met you, you felt very laid back. I don't know. I would never have suspected you had so much energy in reserve.
Oh yeah. When it comes to the coaching, training, expressing, and so on, plus the role that I was in at that point in time, sort of I needed to wear a different face, so to speak, and sort of be a little bit more reserved and cautious in what I was saying.
Well, I like this part of you. So there's a couple of questions, and I also want to say, I'm taking notes myself, and I'm loving the idea that you can focus here on evergreen SEO, right? Which is a great concept. The idea that we always talk about SEO as being a long-term strategy, as a constant accumulation of assets online and so on. And when you think of content as link bait, not just as SEO keyword bait, but as link bait for people, then it becomes easier to think in terms of evergreen SEO, because now you're writing for people, you're not just writing for keywords. It's a really cool paradigm shift. I like that a lot. And the whole idea about repurposing and being first out with all that content, I really like the idea. I was thinking then, well, how do you SEO audio and how do you SEO all these things? And then it occurred to me, oh, wait a minute, we're talking about writing for people. This is link bait. It's not as sure. It's important to have the right, because now Google is transcribing the audio and the audio tracks of the video and the audio and the MP3s and so on. But they don't do a great job of transcription necessarily. But then it occurred to me, oh wait, but we're not really thinking about Google here. We're thinking about getting people to point to where we have content online, which hopefully we have an audio on our blog or video on a blog, and everybody loves it and spreads the word, because the real value is the authority. It's the links back to the site as much as it is the content and the SEO. And that was a really, really interesting way to remind myself about that, because I often think about text when I think about SEO. And so that was a really great little shift for me as well. Julie says she likes the idea of competition equals future partner. Yeah, that was cool too. Thanks, Julie. Pace is great. I'm learning a lot. That's great. Brian says the first 25 minutes there was a link listed as quick check something. Do you remember what that is, John? He missed that.
Off the top of my head, no. It's let me take a look right here, because it's in the mind map here. I'm trying to think of where I ended up dropping that one. Was it the
quick check? That must be it right there. That must be it right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Here, I'll drop it. Lou, if it's okay with you, I'll drop it in. If it's okay, I'll drop it into the Q&A box.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Drop in the Q&A box, and then and he says the content is amazingly fresh and unlike anything else. So thank you, Brian. I agree with you. So Tarek is asking, how much time does this take to be implemented? Now, I don't know if that's something you're going to talk about later, John. So you're welcome to address it later, or if you have a quick answer you want to give on this one now, because Tarek says, I think we are talking about a long-term plan here, and I agree. I mean, SEO is about the long term, right?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. You can actually get wonderful short-term results and maintain the long term. That's one of the things that other people train you on incorrectly. They shoot for short-term results that are real vapor. Within 2 or 3 days, you get a surge of traffic, which is nice, and it is effective. But it's really a loophole, and you're really taking advantage of the technology. And look, that's okay. People do that, and it's okay. But when it comes to getting short-term results and long-term results, the link bait approach, that high-quality content, that approach is head and shoulders above. Regarding the time question, I'll give about 50% of the answer. You can pretty much outsource everything that I talk about. Remember that in the beginning I said, look, near and dear to my heart, a part of who I am is, look, I generate, create, set up systems. Everything from hiring people to how I work with JVs to how I create content. I'm very systems oriented. And guess what that translates to? If you can generate, create, set up systems, it means you can then carve off whatever work that is and hand it to other people. I think you'll really see that coming up here with the blog comment authority drain and the reclaiming of broken links. So in both of those sections, it's sort of one step down, one step closer to fingers on keyboard. Not that link bait and the creation of content is not hands-on and it's not getting your hands dirty. It is, but the blog comment authority drain and the reclaiming of broken links, it's a little bit more hands-on and it's more systematized and therefore easier to outsource. So that's about half the answer right there.
Okay, excellent. There's another half dozen or so questions, but let's save those to the end so we can keep motoring here.
Yeah, rock and roll.
Yep.
So thank you very much for the feedback and the questions. I love it. Very, very cool. So the blog comment authority drain. Now this is fun. This is. I mean, actually, both the blog comment authority drain and reclaiming of broken links.
You are now muted.
Using what you know, but you didn't know you knew. I'm not going to tell you what you already knew. It's like, I knew that. It's one of those things. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of aha, but I knew that at the same time. So it's like new and old, and it's really fun. Okay, so one of the things that people want, and we're using blog as as sort of the catch-all, and it's also easy to talk about blogs and WordPress and so on. So you can
blogging, I want you to realize the concepts, like the link bait, for example, that applies as much to social media and YouTube and LinkedIn and so forth as it does to a static HTML or PHP-driven website or using a content management system as it is to blogging. Okay, and it's not necessarily that we're tied or tethered to just blogging to make this stuff work. Just keep that in mind, please. Okay, but the idea here, the framework that we have, is that we're talking about blogging and blogs as the example. So most people, in fact, I can't think of anyone who doesn't want more blog comments other than maybe Seth Godin, who just doesn't want comments and doesn't want to answer comments because it overloads him. Too darn busy. But most people, and we're talking in respect now, we're talking in respect to search engine optimization, talking about content and providing value and working within a community and so on and so forth, right? So most people want more comments on their blog, okay? Let me tell you why most people want comments on their blog in case you don't know why, which is possible. It's because it creates more content on that page. That's the number one SEO reason. When people comment on your blog, you're getting more free content, user-generated content on that blog and on that particular blog post, okay? That's a good thing, right? Because it just adds bulk. It increases the thud factor. And if you think about link bait and leverage and the authority and so on, if you see hundreds of comments on a blog post, do you think that is a better blog post than one that has 2 or 3 comments on it? Even if the quality, here's the sad fact, you just have to work with the sad fact. So look, you can have a great blog post, have 2 or 3 comments, and then there can be a pretty good blog post, but have hundreds of responses, comments in other words. The one that has more responses very often is going to have way more backlinks coming in, way more buzz in the social media world, and life's unfair, right? So that's why you want comments on your blog. You want to increase the bulk, and you want the comments to be good. You don't want junk comments. You don't want to go out and pay for people to come and comment on your blog. That makes no sense. You want high enough quality content so that people are really interested in commenting on your blog. Okay, so it's an essential fact there for you to sort of squirrel away. So what you do is you go to other blogs. You go to other people's blogs. Your competition, again, those are your future partners. You're going to go to their blogs. You're going to go to their blog, not yours. You're going to go to their blog, and you're going to hang out. You're going to grab a beer, grab a coffee, grab some wine, do your thing, right? And you're going to visit their site, and you're going to comment and email them. You're going to comment on their stuff. Now, that sounds kind of weird. I'm like, what are you even talking about here? You can outsource this, by the way. You can outsource this activity. You can outsource the activity of going to someone else's blog, your competition, right? And you can leave comments on their blog. It's kind of weird because I just said you want comments on your blog, but that's a way to get acknowledged by the other person. That's one thing that you can do. The other thing you can do is follow the links that are in basically the resource area for someone else who has left a comment on someone else's blog. So if you really like a comment left by someone on your competitor's blog, click on that link and go through to the person who commented. Okay? So let me just say that again because it's a little bit tricky, but it's actually really straightforward. You're going to go to a competitor's blog. You're going to look for the best comments. Then you're going to click through. Most people have links that link back to their websites and their blogs. Click on those links and go visit their blogs. Then find basically the contact information, email them, and say, thanks, I love the comment that you left. Now, why would you do that? Because you're establishing rapport with someone who generates content for free for a competitor. I bet you see where this is going. If you find people who are great at generating content for your competitors for free, wouldn't you like to have them on your team? And guess what? It ain't that hard to do. You find the top blogs in your niche. You probably know what they are already. Visit the blog and click through, find the contact information, and say, you rock, I loved your content. Okay? Now let's get into this a little bit. favorite blogs in your niche. This works in forums too, just as a little aside there, okay? So you're going to watch, listen, and learn, right? These people that I just mentioned, this is so awesome. The people that are providing free content very often will come and visit your blog and just start leaving comments on stuff that you've created. Now, think about link bait. Think about the quality content that you've generated. Do you think they might be compelled to leave a comment or comments on your blog if your content's good, if not better than your competitors? Don't you think that you just basically stole that person from the other, basically your competitor's team, so to speak, and you moved them over to your team, or at least they're spending part of their time on your blog, spending time, they've joined your list, and these people can be excellent guest bloggers, more free content in many cases, or if they're superstars, and I found a couple of these folks, you actually start paying these people, right? Depending on their motivations, you might say, your content's great, come over here to my blog, I want to basically pay you to write. Why leave comments over on someone else's blog when you can post on my blog, and I'll give you a link in your bio box on my blog, and I'll pay you, okay? Very powerful. This is a great way to find writers, and usually it doesn't cost much money. That's if you have to pay them. Usually, because you've stroked their ego and you've shown respect to them, they'll blog for you for free, and they'll comment for free. Now do you understand the idea of basically the blog comment authority drain? You're draining the authority and the power from your competitors. So you're not trying to hurt your competitors per se, but you're certainly trying to enrich yourself and trying to increase the juice of your blog. You're trying to get better content on your blog and find better people who actually can communicate effectively. Finding people who can, basically effectively communicate is very difficult. But it ain't that difficult if you visit a friend or visit a competitor's site and start scooping people up. And you can align, and this is what's really interesting, if you're just starting out, this works even better because you can do an us versus them. You can align your blog, the little upstart, the little rascal, right? The little blog there versus the big dog who doesn't care, right? Hey, why would they do this? As I just said, they want attention. Many people that write these long blog comments, they're oozing. They're oozing with ideas, and they're frustrated, and they want people just to pay attention. They want to just be recognized, right? And they're paid in the academic sense. There's this idea of academic currency. Your idea was really good, right? Anyone who's been to graduate school really understands this. I spent a lot of time in graduate school, and it always amazed me how much people went, yeah, it's my idea, and they really just fought. They really fought to be recognized and having their ideas, out there number one. Well, that's exactly what you're tapping into. You're tapping in this need, this human. This is still search engine optimization because you're talking about content, increasing the value of your blog, and I could go on and on about that. But it's about being paid and paying with praise and respect. These people respect your feedback, and this is why it's so easy to align these great blog commenters with you in your blog. It's a very powerful us versus them situation, and it's very easy to say, yeah, I noticed that that big guru, boy, he doesn't recognize what you say, but I think what you say is fantastic, and you're wonderful. Just saying that is like, wow, flattery will get you everywhere when it comes to blog commenters. Easy process to get started, right? Very, very. I said I'd give it to you, straight up. Okay, number one, do a search for blog. Okay, visit blog that makes sense. That's sort of like 1A is do the blog search in your niche. So you could do it might be crochet blog. Find the top blogs, right? And the next thing is, of course, to visit one of those blogs. And then look at the blog postings, right? You can also sort by date. There's a number of things you can do to find blogs that make sense. That's the sorting idea. And then posting the comment and also finding these people. Very powerful. This is what you do, right? You can actually go and find these folks that are out there. By the way, the big hint is don't do this yourself. How easy is it for you to go and do a search to find blogs in your niche and then go through that process that I just described? Very easy. Do the search, do the sort, post the comment, right? Rock and roll. Don't do that yourself. Don't do that part yourself. You might want to do the communication yourself, You might want to create the template, like, hey, I loved your blog comment, and then you put the URL in and so on and so forth. But that's about it. The process is extremely simple. Getting started is very, 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 very easy. And of course, like I said, you can do this in forums as well, not just with blogs. Same idea. It comes down to this. It's social currency. It's recognizing other people, treating other people with respect. And I'm teaching you in such a way that you can apply this to acquiring great people, right? Great resources for your blog, for your business, and then apply them to your business. And even you might even find that they have giant lists, but they don't know how to use their list. I found some great people. I found great partners doing this. They didn't just become blog commenters, and they didn't just become guest bloggers. They became actual partners doing this. And you can understand why. It's like, hey, I respect you. You're showing, you're sort of tipping your hat and showing that respect. You're bowing to the other person ever so slightly, saying, I respect what you've done. I appreciate the value that you add to the community. Okay? The only danger here in doing this is that you have these people that sort of follow you, a little bit too much. You get these people that are singers. They're just over the top, and they want your email and phone number. They think they can talk to you all the time on Skype, and that is a danger. Okay, I want to warn you that if you find certain people using this technique, when you shower praise on people, even a few sentences, you'd be surprised. There are some people that haven't been thanked for what they've done in years. They haven't been thanked for something that they've done in years. In fact, I can't think of the last time someone ever, and I read blog comments, I can't think of the last time, if ever, someone has ever said, John, thank you for that comment. Thank you for that clarity. And I don't mess around. When I'm going to leave a comment, I leave a comment. It's very rare someone thanks me or shows respect. Usually they'll want to spar. Usually they'll say, well, your idea isn't quite right, or you didn't spell that right, or whatever it happens to be, instead of saying, wow, I really appreciate your point of view. Now, on my own blog, that doesn't happen nearly as much because it's my blog and there's the authority built in because it's my blog, right? I'm talking about johnsrhodes.com. But on other blogs doing this, forget it. There's no respect. It's dog eat dog, right? So you can tap into that human emotion, that human interaction very, very effectively. And like I said, you can bulk up on content, user-generated content for free or for a very low price. And you can outsource a good chunk of that activity of finding these people, finding the blog, finding the commenters, even sending off emails. Hi, this is, John S. Rhodes' assistant. He wanted me to let you know that he thought your comment on the crochet blog was totally awesome. By the way, here's his blog. Just thought I'd let you know, your comment's so good. Would you be interested in being a guest blogger? Not hard to do that. Very easy to outsource. You're delivering the praise. You're giving them a reason to visit your site. You're even dangling a carrot in front of them in terms of an opportunity to move from a blog commenter to a higher status, an actual blogger who is posting content on someone else's blog whose blog might be actually really spicy and juicy. Or it might be just getting started, and it's sort of that us versus them. You're kind of a scrappy little bulldog just getting going. So that is in, and I left a couple things out, but that's okay. Again, for the sake of time and respecting your time, that is the summary of the blog comment authority drain. It's very, very powerful. And if I didn't mention Google and algorithms or anything, but you can imagine and you can picture in your mind, can you imagine doing this and how easy and actually how cheap it is to do and time efficient too, because you can outsource it. The value here is enormous because you're getting that high quality content that you basically snipered, and depending on how you think about this, you're kind of going against your competitor too. So you're knocking your competitor down a little bit in some cases. So that might give you like a little a little jab at the competitor. So that's a good, kind of a fun good thing too as well. And same as before, Lou, I'll kind of pause there, let people kind of soak all that up. If there's any questions about doing that and the advantages of doing it, I'm all ears, so ready and willing and able to answer.
Okay, guys, that's your cue. Type in your questions and comments for John as we take a breather here. And, Yeah, John, I think the thing that I like about what you're saying, actually, I'm going to tell you what I like about it, and then I'm going to ask you your opinion on something that I find in terms of people taking action on this. So, the first thing that I'm noticing and that I'm really thankful for tonight is that we're spending a lot of time talking about the off-page factors, the link baits, and getting links back to your site. Whenever I talk to guys, if I'm talking to Andy Jenkins or Brad Fallon or these guys, the very first thing that they always tell me is, on-page SEO is great, but it's about 10 to 20% of the battle. The real battle is won in the links, and the more you can do to get backlinks, and I mean real authoritative backlinks, not just going out and buying a bunch of junk backlinks, but doing it the way you're talking about here, John. The more true, long-lasting SEO value, page rank, and authority you're going to get, and we haven't. We haven't talked a lot. I mean, we've talked about on-page factors. We talked a little bit about getting links through, posting and then going through auto posters like OneWire or Social Poster or Posterous and all that kind of thing. But this is a really cool, detailed, sort of step-by-step look at some of the things that we could be doing and should be doing on a day-to-day basis. I especially like the idea that you're saying, well, why would you do it yourself? This is stuff you can outsource. And by the way, this kind of outsourcing, you don't have to outsource this at 30, 40, 50 bucks an hour. You can even get folks on Mechanical Turk to do this. I've seen places where people will post backlinks on Mechanical Turk for like a dime a post or something like this. So this is really awesome, very outsourceable, very affordable stuff. So the question I have for you, John, is, so at an intellectual level, this seems like it's reasonable, right? It makes a whole lot of sense. You can see the value in it. You can see how you can systemize and outsource it. So what do you think? In my experience, though, people don't do that. I get a lot of head nodding, and I get a lot of agreement, and people kind of understand this stuff. What do you think stops people from doing more of this, from doing enough of it that they actually get enough SEO and link bait and authority value? Have you seen any trends? Do you see like a number one or two top kind of things that people resist that we could sort of help support people to work through if they're experiencing it here?
Yeah, that's very, very astute, Lou. Is this? How do you take action? Where do you start? And how do you? What's stopping people? And I know this sounds a little bit foo-foo. It really sounds kind of eye in the sky and intangible. But the reality is that most people, when it comes to SEO, when it comes to taking action, they don't know what they want. They say they know what they want. Oh, I want more traffic. And then you start to untangle that, and that has nothing to do with what they really want. And they also don't know, a lot of people don't understand what their goals are in a particular niche, for example. Okay, so an example would be, okay, I want to be number one in my niche. And it's like, well, okay, how realistic is that? And what does being number one mean? And you just start asking a couple of basic questions about what the goal is, what the end goal is for doing SEO, but in particular, this way. In particular, if you're going to create great, let me kind of take a step forward 10 years from now, right? If you created a bunch of great content, what does that content look like? Most people melt down. They're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, okay, fine. Step forward into the future, 5 years. What does your content look like? What have you delivered to the world? How have you changed the world? How has your life changed? How's your business grown as a result of the content that you've already created? Just describe that content. And again, meltdown. And if you even, you keep going down and down and down to the point where it's like, okay, what's your content going to look like tomorrow? So one step forward, just one day forward. It's I don't know. And it all is related to the long-term goals. What are you really trying to do? How much money are you trying to make? What are your, dreams, hopes, aspirations? What do you want this business to do? Do you want it to be, hands-on? Do you want it to be hands-off? Most people say they want passive income. They want, the passive money. Cool, great. But is that what you really want? And if you do, okay, what kind of content is going to be better from a passive cash perspective? Gee, I don't know. I might say, gee, I don't know either. But let's start talking about that kind of content.
So, Lou, I think that's it. As basic as that sounds, hey, what is your goal? What's the purpose of doing SEO at all, or creating this content in the first place? Most people do not have a clearly defined, fire in the belly purpose. I think everyone can hear the passion in my voice about the importance of training and delivering the information and actually transferring energy that I have to other people and actually delivering like the goodwill, the good karma, very little in return I expect. It's like, here you go. I want you to do good things with this. You can go do this. Here's how to do it. And a lot of times people do get that when I'm doing training. It's like, okay, now I'm ready to go off and do these things. But I always bring it back to, okay, what's the goal? Let's start with the end in mind, like a sort of Stephen Covey-esque idea. And so, Lou, I think that everyone should be kind of thinking and then writing down, my goal for this website is, my goal for traffic is, my goal for SEO, which is related to both of those, is. You have those in mind. It's like, okay, it helps you make those decisions. It helps motivate you. You can put those real numbers in front of you. Like, I want, 1,000 page views per month. I want 1,000 page views per day. And then translate that into what it means. Like, if you're a numbers guy, you might say, wow, if I had 1,000 people visiting my page per day, or visiting that particular page per day, here's what I think that would mean. You can run the numbers. You can actually look at the conversion rates, and that gets exciting. And that's related to your overall real goals. For folks that are more, into changing the world, you might be like, wow, if 1,000 people saw this message, I could probably get, 50 or 100 of them to donate to this cause. And that's like, wow. And so when you connect the purpose, to the end goal, a lot of things start to fall in place. My very best coaching students always have the fire in their belly for something that is very specific. If it's just for money, there's nothing but misery and collapse in front of you. It cannot just be about the money. There has to be some sort of tangible, almost visceral and visible goal that's burned in your mind. That's my experience, Lou.
Okay, good. Well, very interesting. And of course, nothing like clarity to drive action. So I understand that completely. I also sense, and maybe we'll talk about this a little later, but I also sense that having, I don't know what it is. It's maybe, personally, I come back to focus, which supports clarity. And that is focus on a particular result, focus on a particular audience, and focus on a particular set of strategies. So there's a part of it for me that feels like people are thinking, I have so many options, I don't know which one to choose. And yet content creation in an information products business seems like the natural thing to do. So, are you going to talk a little bit about workflow and organizing your day and how to make this a part of your day-to-day experience to build your business later, or is that something we'll do as Q&A?
We can do that as Q&A.
Okay, let me make a note of that, and I'll ask you a little bit later at the end of the call because it's not directly related to what you're saying here. But I want to ask you about that because I'm sensing when I work with people that a lot of it has to do with I just don't know how to organize my time and how to make it. A lot of it I think maybe also be I want to believe that if I do this, it's going to have a payoff. And so let's save that for the Q&A. And for now, let me just give you a couple of comments that are coming in. So Cheryl's saying, "Wow, this is a really powerful perspective." She put a comment in there, I think, when you were talking about I think it was link bait leverage. So I might have been talking about that. Tarek says, love this. Thank you, Lou and John. John, he says, John, my friend, I'm thanking you right now and paying my respects. So that was smart. Good job, Tarek. Julie says she likes this blog comment authority drain. Very cool technique. I'm going to give it a try. Excellent, Julie. And let me see. How do you budget for aspects of this and then hire? How much to offer? Yeah, so that's an interesting idea. So you're talking about guest comments, guest blogging, and people that you might pay. You're talking about outsourcing people to comment around and things like that. What do you think is kind of a ballpark expectation that you can reasonably set for people?
Yeah, awesome. So it depends on the niche, depends on what kind of revenue you can generate. But I'll really start with this: zero, no money, absolutely $0, right? And I'm going to make the assumption that you have basically no money, $0. And what you do is you build and you create on your own. In other words, you figure out what's really working and different. And I wish I could say, oh, every niche is like this. I do know that great content works in all niches. I do know that video in most niches works better. Doesn't always work better, but in most niches it works better. Works better on authority sites. I mean, invariably. You know, if you've got video on your site, on your blog, then it has more authority, plain and simple. So I very, very strongly encourage people to spend no money whatsoever. And then what you do is you say, okay, I'm going to go through this more until you get to a point where you know what the system is. It doesn't take long. It could be a matter of one day, a few days, maybe a week or two. You want to know what the task entails. You want to know the level of effort. Then just look at what is your time worth? What are your dollars that are coming in for your business? If you're not making any money in your business, then spend no money. Okay, let me say that again. If you're not making any money yet, which I highly doubt, right? But sort of concept, right? Conceptual here. If you're not making any money, then don't spend any money, right? So you start doing something that appeals to you. Just pick one thing. For example, a lot of people I notice in my coaching classes and so forth, they really gravitate towards the aggregation monster. They're like, hey, I can do that. I can go off. I can do a couple of searches on Google, bring the content together. Does not require much in terms of thinking. Does not require much time. And I can create a blog that says, hey, these are the top 10 resources on growing tomatoes, the May 2011 edition. That's the blog post. Not that hard to go off. There's your title. It's basically SEO optimized as well, okay, because you're putting in what it is. You're collecting all of the different links and content that are available for the month, whether it's April or whatever it happens to be, and then you drop it onto a page. That aggregation of content is extremely easy to use. You can visualize it. Letterman's top 10. Okay, I just need the top 10. The SEO falls out of that naturally. You've got great content. You can reach out to people very easily that you've brought in, and that is very, very cheap, very fast, very affordable. Then you do that a few more times. You do it a few more times after that, and you say, wow, I've got a great system. I've got a great system for labeling and naming. I've got a great way, or a template that you've created, where you copy and paste and drop content into your blog post. Again, we're sticking with the blog idea as the example. And then you take a look back. You say, okay, after 3 days of doing this or after a week of doing this, I'm going to sort of analyze myself and how much time it takes. If it takes you 5 or 10 minutes, all right, and your time is worth X dollars, might not be worth it to outsource that particular thing. But if it's taking you an hour or 2 hours and you're really going over the top and your system has multiple parts, hey, what's your time worth? Is your time worth $30 an hour, $50, $70 an hour? Then it becomes pretty obvious because you can look at the traffic coming in as a result of doing this effectively and literally do an ROI analysis. And that's what I do. I look at what I'm doing in my business, no matter what I'm doing, whether it's SEO or other work that I'm doing for myself or for clients and so forth, and I say, wow, I make X dollars per hour, which is pretty substantial most of the time. Sometimes it's zero, just doing stuff, right? Sometimes I look at that and I go, okay, fine. But if I'm making substantial amount of money on average, then should I really be doing this kind of blog post? It's pretty easy because I know the traffic coming in. I know, and I measure a lot of what I do based on my list build. Okay, so I will look at the amount that I've been able to grow my list, and I'll say, well, if I can grow my list by 7 people based on that particular blog or that blog post or whatever it happens to be, then it becomes really obvious because I can say I'm going to make a number up. The average person on my list, will generate $10 in a month for me. Well, wow, $70 a day. So now I can look at the quality of person I bring into my business. I can think about different numbers of people. I mean, that's enough money. $70 is enough to bring on a full-time person for 1 week in the Philippines. Is that the kind of content that I want? Can that Filipino, for example, do research for me to feed me, and then I drop it into Excel and I create a spreadsheet or I do whatever. So you can start and look. You can do very, very simple cost analysis. But again, it depends on your niche, how much money you're generating, how much time you're spending, what technique you're using, and I just kind of combine the pieces that matter to me. I do not do everything. There's no way. I do everything at first, but then I look at the numbers and I go, oh, okay, and I start outsourcing. It makes it very easy for me to delegate based on looking at the numbers and the activity that's required to reach those numbers. I know it's kind of a longer answer than probably what people want to hear, but it does depend on what, again, your end goals are, what your perspective is, and what you like doing. Another thing is tapping into your unique ability, tapping into your unique skill set. I'm very, very keen on that. Like for example, I could pretty easily outsource copywriting. I have some very, very good copywriting friends, but I do 95+% of my own copywriting. I do an enormous amount of copywriting. It's a skill that I enjoy utilizing, and I get my conversion rates are crazy good, and so on. So some of the content generation that I focus on personally is writing sales copy. So that kind of gives you perspective. Make sure you want to make sure that you're leveraging your personal strengths here as well, because that drives satisfaction in your business. It aligns sort of what you're doing from a karma perspective, and aligning the moons, and just loving what you do in your business. Make sure you're doing stuff that you're good at and you enjoy and have some passion about, and other people value. You do that, and you start delegating the other stuff, and you do that based on these numbers that I was talking about, based on some simple analysis. It doesn't have to be perfect either. You can be off and not have any sort of perfect analysis at all. Just kind of go, yeah, well, I could easily pay someone, $10-12 to write an article for me that's 80% of the way done, and I'll finish it off from there. That concept, by the way, is like $1 million concept. Well, maybe not $1 million concept. It's literally put tens of thousands of dollars in my pocket. So I'm going to say it again. The number one thing that stops people, in my opinion, from outsourcing higher leverage activities. For example, we'll take copywriting. The number one thing that prevents people from reaching out and bringing the resources into the business is they're looking for the other person to be perfect or be very close to 100%. So if in your mind your goal is to get 80% output, and that 80% is very good output, then you can bring in people again and again and again. And a lot of times they cost less and there's other stuff, but they can get 80% of the job done, and then you take it over the goal line. You take it the rest of the way. The extra 20%, you smooth over the edges, you add your personality, you add additional content. You might push it through a proofreader. That's another 10%. A proofreader takes the 80%, moves it to 90% or 95%. Then you go in and make the final swizzles, the final adjustments, and there you go. The 80% principle of getting the work done when you outsource is extremely effective, especially at that higher level. At the higher level. At the lower level, it doesn't work so good. But at the higher level, where people are like, well, I'm the only, people say this to me all the time, John, I'm the only person who can create videos. I'm like, really? Why? And they explain it, and they're kind of sort of right, but only about 20% right, which means the other 80% can be done by someone else. Writing scripts, putting together mind maps, putting together the PowerPoints, doing research, all of that stuff can be very easily outsourced. Then you go in and sprinkle the magic fairy dust on top, take it from 80% to 100%, then you shoot your video. Think of the amount of time that you save, and actually the use of money, the reinvestment there is incredible. So, sorry, I know I really went off on out there, but I wanted to explain some of my philosophy and some of my actual practical stuff that I do in my business when it comes to outsourcing, as it relates as well here to SEO and creating that great content.
Yeah, I think it's a really important question. There's probably 3 or 4 questions here that all have to do with outsourcing and how do I do this? How do I get it into my business? And I think it's a really important and valuable commentary. And and I'd like to go back again, revisit this later, and say, well, specifically, if you were going to advise people, the first things that they need to do to get started with putting this into their schedule. That's how I kind of like to wrap up the call later on. Is just what would be the top 5 things, top 7 things you would advise step by step for people to do to get some momentum with this kind of SEO. Okay, so Sorry, I keep coughing on you, but let's keep rolling. There's a few more questions. We'll come back to them at the end, but I'm aware of the time here, so I'm gonna I'm gonna yield to you, John, and so you can. I don't know how much more of the presentation you have, but take her away.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Awesome. So reclaiming of broken links. This one, I love this. I've done this for a long time now. It's not something I'm doing day in and day out in my business, but if I want to go after certain websites and I want to make an impression on people, this is extremely effective. So this is very good, not only from an SEO perspective, but it's also really good as a strategic tool if you want to get someone else's attention. And this is particularly good in these little tiny niches, right, where people are probably a little bit less technical, a little bit less aware about what's really going on websites. This is really, really effective and is like an eye-opener. Okay, so reclaiming broken links. Pretty awesome here. I'll actually close it up and make it so we can focus here. It's a three-step process. Basically what you do is you identify broken links on other people's websites, which sounds really, really kind of crazy here, but basically you find broken links on other people's websites, all right? And then what you do is you follow up with them. And you say, hey, by the way, here's a great replacement for that broken link. Now, many of these websites have, they're older websites, they have older content, and so from a page rank perspective and from an authority perspective, they've got some juice. And you can say, here's the replacement. It's my content. Here you go. So you're basically identifying a problem, and maybe you agitate it a little bit as well. You say, hey, I've had broken links on my site as well, and that's really frustrating. Right? So you agitate a little bit, and you say, here's a replacement, and then you have the step three is you sort of establish that rapport. Hey, now that we're friends, now that you have that relationship, you can leverage that relationship. You can be a guest blogger for them. They can, basically guest blog for you. So this is a very, very good icebreaker. And of course, what that leads to is getting them to write content for you, you writing content for them. This is like the ultimate icebreaker. And you're reclaiming broken links. You're actually doing a good service to the entire web. You're repairing broken parts of the web. And guess what Google thinks of that? Thumbs up. Obviously, humans like that. No one likes broken links. When they hit them, they're like, really? I mean, I still have broken links all the time. Okay? So, yeah, the relationship building is essential. It does give you that icebreaker, very, very powerful. Here's a weapon that I use. Again, I'm not doing this every day, but it certainly can be done every single day if you are really interested in this technique. Okay? I do this a few times a month is about the number of times that I do this. All right? So there's this tool here, and I'll drop it in there to the box. Now, here's the deal with this particular tool. All right? And, Lou, if you could distribute that, that'd be great. So here's the scoop, right? This is only going to work on Windows machines. It's a very focused sort of, engineering type of tool. Okay, so it's not all, Mac eye candy, smooth over, and all that kind of stuff. It's literally for, certain Windows machines, but it's really, really awesome. You can basically install it, and so this is cool. You can install it and then aim it. You can aim Xenu at any website that you want, and then basically have it run. So you hit the scan button or whatever I forget the name of the button. You hit the button, and it actually does a scan of that entire website and generates a very long report with a list of all the broken links on that website. So very, very cool. The reason that that's so cool is you have a list of all the holes that are in that particular website, and of course that gives you the ability to work through step 1, step 2, step 3, build a relationship. You're basically it's a win-win-win. The end user, you, and your in the past it was your competitor. Now this person is your friend. Okay. There's a lot more I could say here. I want to respect everyone's time. There's a lot of really cool stuff. But as you can imagine, the last thing I'll say about this is, the ninja trick here, which isn't really all that ninja, it's actually more like an open secret. It's like right there. You could give this to an outsourced worker, a few dollars, and just do this again and again and again and again, and have everything ready. You can have everything in terms of a template ready to reach out to people, have a special email account, set up a new Gmail account. And I have a couple of colleagues that do exactly this. They have a special worker who all that worker does is find these broken links and follow up. And it's how they build their affiliate base. This is actually how they find affiliates. Like, ooh, that link's broken to that other product. I've got a product that is just like that product. You can just put it in, and I have a more generous, so this is kind of a cool affiliate thing as well for those folks who do affiliate marketing. So what it does is it bumps your competitors or your past competitors and puts your link in there. And if you have a better deal, that's great, right? You pay out more, you have a higher priced product, you get a better sales page, better. And of course, you get to know this person. They probably have a list. In many cases, these other affiliate marketers have a list, and great things happen there. They'll mail for you. Like I said, I have a couple of colleagues that they actually have a dedicated resource doing nothing but this kind of outreach, and it's just great. They do it for affiliate purposes, but you can imagine doing the exact same thing for generating backlinks and generating new partnerships with people. Very, very cool. Nice little weapon there. Lots and lots of fun, and the process is so simple. There's nothing complex about it at all. Hey, you get a broken link. Oh, I don't like broken links either. They kind of make you look silly. Ha ha ha. Here's a great replacement, your link, and then, hey, now that we're friends. Super duper icebreaker. So that wraps up the really ultra easy backlinks. Now there's obviously a ton more, many different things we can talk about, but just doing these things alone will significantly help you from the quality of content you're generating perspective to the quality of backlinks you're getting perspective, and it just plain works. I've been doing this for years and years and years, and it never stops working. There's no or very little technology involved. It's very gracious, and there's lots of gratitude and goodwill built into it. So it's really just a sort of a nice thing. In many cases, I guess the authority drain can be a little aggressive, but for the most part, you're creating great content the right way, the right time, with the right people. Technology doesn't matter a whole lot. People find you, they find your content. They are wowed, they're bowled over by how good your content is in some cases. In other cases, you're reaching out to them, and it's a matter of goodwill and really, really cool, fun stuff you're doing for them. So that's a little short course on how to get great, generate great content that forces people to link to you. It's also, this, as I mentioned very early on, how to get those super high quality backlinks, really, really great backlinks from trusted websites and authority sites, and even from your competitors, as I had mentioned. And really outsourcing is very, very easy here. There's very little that requires your personal attention other than maybe the really, really good content. But even that, you can get 80% of that content created. I do it all the time, and then you take it over the goal line, right? So that the heavy lifting and the boring work of doing the research and digging into the numbers or using the software, someone else can do that. They hand it over to you, and you just finish it off. And in many cases, it can be done for next to nothing, or as we saw here, $0 if you're doing it yourself.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. What I really love about today's call is that it's such a great compliment. We did a little bit of work about talking about primarily the emphasis was on on-page factors, and we did 80% on-page. We talked about 20% of off-page, and there's always the question. Well, look, I understand that I'm supposed to get links, but how do I do it? And we talked about general ways to do it, but I just love these really creative, easy to do, and I dare say, controversial, not controversial, but they're uncommon. They're uncommonly common sense. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when you look at it now, you think, well, that makes a whole lot of sense. And some of them are verging on being sneaky, but they're not. But they're just really smart, ways to get your content out there and to build relationships in the link sphere, as it were, of the interweb, which is so important. So, hopefully now that you guys have been listening to this, you've heard the on-page stuff, you've heard the off-page stuff, and my goal for you is that you go back and listen to these things and write a little checklist for yourself, to supplement the one that we have in the action coaching, and excuse me. Write a little checklist for yourself and kind of think about what are the activities that I would love to do. Which of these things really sort of resonate with who I am, are likely going to be things I'm going to enjoy doing, and like integrate them into your workflow, right? There's a lot of really good ideas here. And pick the ones that resonate with you most. I mean, you don't have to do them all to begin with, and you can do them one or two at a time. And when you get it figured out and you got it systemized and everything, and you can outsource it, then you can try another one, right? Don't overwhelm yourself by trying to do it all, but really take away one or two things that you've heard tonight and say, you know what? Like Julie said, the authority drain thing was the one that really resonated with her, and fantastic. So the result of that is, hey, this sounds like a really good idea, something that I would enjoy doing. I'm gonna go do it, is what she said, which I love. And so I'm going to encourage you to do that as well. Go through the call tonight. Think about which of these kind of fit in with your workflow, with your personality, with the way you like to be online, and then start doing it. You know, start link baiting, start doing authority drains, start outsourcing the reclamation of broken links, start finding guest bloggers, and start commenting on whatever it is that works for you, and then create awesome content in as many different formats as possible, right? So lots of opportunities for action here, and of course we can't do it all at once, and I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. I just want you to pick the top one or two things that really lights you up, that looks like it could be fun, or that you could see how to outsource easily, and start with that. Okay, that would be my encouragement to you, because with the amount of interest that there seems to be in SEO, seems to me that hopefully you've got a lot of tips about how to implement it, because there's a lot of questions, but I also sense in the force that there were questions, there were interest, there was curiosity, but there wasn't clarity about what to do next. So hopefully you've got a lot of choices here about things that you can do next. And John, just real quick, I want to ask you is if you're going to summarize for people who want to implement some of these things into their workflow, what are the things you think that they need to do to get started? Like what would you recommend as a way to take what you've taught them and get into action as quickly as possible? What would be the top 3 to 5 steps you'd recommend?
Yeah, well, one comment right off the bat, Lou, is the summary that you provided is typically the summary I give to people. It literally is. It's pick one particular thing that resonated with you the most. Pick one thing. Forget everything else, because everything else was an intellectual curiosity. It was something that you can sort of talk to your friends about. You can talk to your wife, your husband, your kid. You can whatever you want to do. The rest of that content is useless to you. Pick one thing from tonight that absolutely, because in my experience, there's usually one thing that works really well, right? For some people, they like software. They want to break the ice. They're trying to figure out how to reach out to people and do it in a smart way. So that's the reclamation or the reclaiming of broken links. For other people, they're trying to dig into a particular market and find great writers for next to nothing. Great writers for next to nothing. Hey, I want people to do work for me for free or for a very, very low cost. And you know that they're great. So in that case, blog comment authority drain. That's really great. So the broken links, hey, relationships, great free content or low cost content, blog comment authority drain. When it comes to what should I work on and how do I do it, link bait, right? In that case, hey, I'm good at video. Hey, I'm good at audio. By the way, you can always shoot video, extract audio. You can always shoot video, extract audio, transcribe, and get 3 for 1. And it's very cheap. You can go to Fiverr.com. You've probably heard that before. Fiverr. Fiverr.com is going to run you about $5 for 15 minutes for a transcription. So do you have audio content lying around? Do you have video content lying around that you can transform into text? So you have multiple formats there as well. So that's part of that link bait leverage idea here. So something here probably resonated with you. The aggregation monster, like I said, is one that most people gravitate towards because they can picture in their mind how to create a list. And that's probably my number one advice. If I had to say, hey, I don't know you whatsoever, we never met before, haven't shook your hand, haven't seen eye to eye, and so forth, well, guess what? The aggregation monster is going to work for you, because all you have to do is do a couple of searches, bring the content together, drop it onto a blog, a website, and so on, and you've created really great content. Humans love lists. So the literal first thing that I would do, like I said previously, was know what your goal is, write your goal down, know exactly what the purpose of your SEO activity is, because most people don't have that written down. That's sort of step number one. And I do this every day, by the way. I kind of take an inventory of my activities, things that are highest
prioritize as well. If you happen to have multiple goals, prioritize them. Very straightforward. Number two, and this is something you only have to do once in a while, is do a content inventory. It's very likely you have content that you hadn't thought of before. So the content inventory is leverage upon what you've already created. You probably have a bunch of videos sitting around, or a bunch of audio content, or a bunch of blog content, and now you have something very actionable. You can take a bunch of that blog content, turn it into a PDF. So it's a very actionable thing that you can do that falls out naturally of the inventory. I found that when people do the content inventory, they find old interest being renewed. It actually creates motivation, which is a real killer. If you don't have the motivation to do some things, you're not going to get very far. So the content inventory usually makes people go, wow, you actually feel really good. It pumps you up, and it sort of re-energizes you. It sounds like a boring activity, but it's excellent. It's very smart to do. You can also be thankful for what you have. Actually kind of go, wow, I'm really glad I have all this as you're doing that inventory. The next thing that I would recommend doing is looking at what's generating money and what's not generating money, what's generating traffic and what's not generating traffic. So this is part of the inventory. It's sort of like it's a third thing. I break it out. But that third thing is look at your analytics. Know what people are actually looking at. And I have this idea, I have this concept that I apply on a very regular basis to all of my SEO activities and everything in my business and my life, which is concentrate on what works and ignore everything else, or just minimize everything else. If everything is running okay, great, or delegate that work away. The stuff that's working great, pile onto it. Pile on and pile on some more. So identify what you're great at, identify your best assets, and look at all the best stuff that you have going for yourself and pile on and combine those things together. Again, it's part of the inventory and so on and so forth. Understanding those numbers in your business is another step. You really need to know what your numbers are, not just the traffic, not just the people that are coming in, not just the avatar, not just the person or the ideal customer, the ideal buyer. That's nice to know, but also who's giving you money, who is looking at what you've created, and how much are they paying you for the value that you're delivering. You just have to know the numbers in your business, otherwise you can't back into how much you should be spending in terms of your time, and certainly in terms of money. You just simply can't invest money, in good conscience if you don't know your numbers. If you don't have some key way. Like I said, my key metric is number of subscribers, because I have a very clear idea how much my subscribers on average are worth. You need a metric that's sort of like a lighthouse in the dark. You need your lighthouse, something you can always say, okay, each person has this value, each whatever has this value, and then back your SEO into that. Okay? So that's the advice I usually give people, Lou, and then it honestly requires either other training, a hands-on approach where I'm involved, or I say other training, other material I have available, because it just depends on the person, their skills, their business. But those things, the inventory, knowing your numbers, knowing your skills, the Pareto principle, that 80-20, the 80-20 rule, you combine those things on a very regular basis, and you're in great shape. So that's, when it comes to what I do on a daily basis, that's different than what folks in my organization do. It's different than what I have outsourced. I'm giving you a little bit more of a strategic perspective, because I know that most people here are probably strategic thinkers and actors and want to work on the business, not in the business. So that's kind of why I delivered that answer to that question, Luke. It's okay.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense. I love it.